co-host, so you can silence everyone if you want to,
No, it's all good. I'm more than
or
happy to
or you
have
can shoot them.
people.
It's up to you. And so the floor is yours, and good luck.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Well, welcome everybody. I kind of been talking for a little bit here. My name's Alex. I work for Sheetcast. I met Israel around Christmas, I believe,
Something like that.
and spoke with him a little bit during then. Uh, for those that don't know what Sheetcast is, Sheetcast is a tool that allows you to use Excel, and it's an Excel add-in to build web apps. So you can use the formulas, all of the logic that's already built into Excel. And on top of the normal Excel formulas, we have a wide variety of custom functions that we're able to use as well that kind of build off of the existing Excel logic, use the same syntax that you guys kind of know and expect, but allow you to do something a little bit more complex. So what I kind of intend to show off today is some of our custom functions. I'm going to build out a couple different workflows for you guys, and we can build out the first example. I'm going to use a blend of our two functions and then go a little bit more advanced to show you off some of that features. As I said earlier, if you guys have any questions along the way, or if I'm going too fast, feel free to shoot a question in the chat. I have one of my colleagues with me here, Brett, who will be looking at the chat to answer any sort of questions that go on there. If there are any questions that you want to verbalize, feel free to unmute, say your question, and yeah, we've got plenty of time to answer those questions and go through that. So yeah, just give me 2 seconds. I will share my screen here. 2 seconds. Alrighty. And can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. So as I was indicating before, Sheetcast is an Excel add-in. You just download it, very similar to other add-ins. It's from our website. And once it's installed, it looks like this on the side. So I've already uploaded an app to create an app. I've named it our demo app. And once that's done, this is what your add-in looks like. I'm going to go through at a high level some of our different page types here. If there's any specific ones that you're curious about, please let me know, but I'll address them in more specifics as we kind of implement them. Our display pages revolve around transforming the data onto the web. Our interactive pages collect data from the web, and our container pages allow us to combine different elements of Sheetcast together. So for instance, our layout container, you can combine a form and a report page on the same page to have them display side by side. Specialized interactive are just that. They're kind of special pages. Maps display things on the web. Import sheets safely and export sheets allow us to import CSV and XLS files into our workbooks. QR code scanner allows us to use one of our custom functions that generates QR codes. And our pivot table explorer allows us to build off words as like a BI light. And now I would like to get into some of our custom functions. So as I type equals cast, it uses the same syntax as a normal function. All of these functions that have the syntax with cast in front of it are custom functions that we can use. I'll set one up very easily here. The first one we can set up is a cast chat. Cast chat allows us to create a pretty basic chat room in a Excel or a web-based format. It says for us to have a bin or a folder. For this allows us to kind of create custom named rooms, but in this case, we don't necessarily need to. For example, we can leave those parameters empty and just like that. And if we add a report page on here and our source is going to be a worksheet, we're able to also use specific cells. So I could use a range of cells if I wanted and click copy, and it would use that. But for the sake of this demo, we're going to use the entirety of sheet one. And now that I have that, I can open up
Entire, you mean
our
1 million
browser.
rows?
Pardon me?
When you say entire sheet, it means 1 million rows.
Yes. Yeah. So
Okay.
the same size as the Excel sheet would normally be,
Okay.
it would support that same sheet. And I can pull this report page up on our other side. And without the cast G, you see it refers to a name error, but we can put in a bin ID into here. And now that we have our bin ID, we can upload the changes to that. And if we view our app online, we now have a chat associated to it. So with that, as you see, if you were to leave the function kind of unused, very similarly to the way you would use like an X lookup, if you didn't pass the lookup parameter in, you return a name error. But if you do fill it in, and in this case, I put a random value in there, we've created a chat box on the web. One of the other functions that I'm a really big fan of, because it kind of starts replacing macros in a lot of cases, is the ability to have cast button execute functions or sets of logic. And so Israel, this is actually the function that kind of triggered that massive one that I've created was a cast button. With a cast button, you can provide the text name. So we'll call this our lower and trim function. And before we do that, we'll just freeze that function. The goal of this function that we're going to create is to change this text to lower and trim. So let's add some leading spaces to it. As you guys are probably all aware, having leading spaces or trailing spaces can really destroy any sort of lookups, any sort of things like that. And if you have any sort of data standardization, not having things in case sensitive is very important. So with the goal of this, we're going to create a button that is going to both lower and trim. So execute those functions on our cell A2. So we can enter our function again. As you see, our second parameter on our function, are you guys able to see that clearly? I'm not sure if I know how to expand this text out, but I want to make sure that everyone can
We
see.
need the magnifier.
Yeah, is there through Zoom I can magnify it
I
potentially?
don't think so.
Let's open this up here. Oh, it's really zoomed in.
Yes, 100%.
Just one sec here. I'm not entirely sure how to. So it's also inverted now, and I can't see anything on my screen. Uh, okay. Are you guys able to see it there a little bit better?
Yes, much better.
I will try to adjust my my magnify. So with the cast button, we have a couple different parameters. We have our button text, our action 1, our action 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. The first piece is going to be our button text, which is just going to be what displays inside the button. And then going on from there are the various actions that occur. So just give me 2 seconds here. I'm going to exit out of my magnifier here. I have to go down and open up my task manager. Let's see if I can find it. I apologize. I don't usually use the magnifier. Does anyone know the shortcut for exiting out of the magnifier
Try
easily?
escape.
Escape?
Yes.
It doesn't seem to want to exit out for me.
I have to find the red X to close it.
Yeah.
Let me try to run it, and we'll tell you how to.
Oh, there we go. I can just probably close it from down here. There we go. I can see my screen again.
Yeah.
I apologize. I had
Welcome
a
back.
coworker using using my magnifier the other day, and they adjusted some settings, and I'm not entirely sure what had changed. Okay, so the first action that we're going to do is our lower and trim combination. So we can use our lower, and we can also use our trim function, and we're going to use a reference to our cell here, A2, and we can close these two up. And as you see, we're back within our cast function, and we can close that up to complete the function. We can do a little bit of styling, maybe make the button a little bit bigger. So all of the cast buttons or elements that create features, they automatically pull the styling from Excel. So by expanding the cell, I have effectively expanded the button. We can create larger with this and maybe center this button. And now that's that done, we can come on the web. And as you see, we have our button. And when I click this, oh, I might have made an error within our function here. Let's see. We'll try lower A2. And close that up. Try that. If I view my app online. 2 seconds. That should work.
I think it's too lower.
Is it too lower?
No, the usual function is lower.
It should be, yeah, just lower here. I think I might have put in a mistake with the button. If I refresh that, yeah, so that was the problem there. So I just referenced it lower, and then for our second piece, you have to split it out. I apologize. You can add our second piece, which would be our trim. And then again, you can reference your cell here, and it will execute those actions on that. With the styling, similar to before, you can change the button style. And if I expand that out, I can come back to the web and refresh, and it adjusts the centering and the styling with that. The other piece that we can start to do is combine our cast buttons with other Sheetcast functions. One of the other ones that I'd like to show off today is a function called do send email. So if I go equals do send email, it opens up our function again. I don't want to open our magnifying again, so I'll read them off. The parameters that our Sheetcast function accepts are template ID and then our various parameters. So in this case, the parameters are going to refer to things that we're passing to our email template. So we can open up a new sheet and we'll enter our email template on our add-in. As you see here, it says add email template. We can open up this template and this opens up a email block. So maybe you wanted to add a button that on your website or within your application, you want to report an error. Maybe I had done my function wrong before there, and I want to be able to report that. So we'll call this our report template. And to who? We can pass this in as a parameter. So we can call this our email. To put values in parameters, all you have to do is combine them in curly brackets. We're going to leave our CC and our BCC blank because we don't need to CC anyone on this email. And the subject, we'll call this our report email. And once we have this completed, we can then go into here and we can say hello. And maybe we will also want to pass the name of the user in as a parameter. So we go hello name. This is a report email. Awesome. And that's about all we need to do for now. So we can click save on this template. And then we can go back into our new page and we'll open up a cast button. And our button text is going to be report. And our action is going to be to do send email. We can pass our template name in. And so we'll put it in brackets. We'll call this our report template. And as you remember within our function, and I'll open it back up here, we have our email that we want to pass in. So we can pull that out. And we need to pass in our name. So within our function, we can define these two variables for our function. So email and name. Go back into our function. So our first parameter is going to be our email. We'll call that our email. same name as we have before. And our parameter value, in this case, I'm going to hard code it, but you can also make cell references. So if I wanted to say this was in cell like A5, for instance, we could change that to put the cell, my email in that cell, and have it reference that cell. In this case, if you had a table, you can have this function automatically carry down and make a reference to, if your second column within that table was email, you can make a reference to that table row, and it will automatically pull up that email. But for this, we're going to hard code it. And so we'll do alex@pleasantsolutions.com. Add an M in here. And with this, what we are doing is defining our email value as my email. And then our second value that we need to pass in is our name. And in this one, we can add a cell reference for this. So if I go down here, we'll put Alex in this cell. And we can hard reference, we'll go for our name, sheet 2, and then A5. Awesome. Perfect. Actually, I might just click the cell reference itself so that we can see how that works. So see, it allows us to enter those values in as normal. And we want to lock this reference because we don't want our value to change ever. Want to keep it hard-coded. Now that we have our values in there, we have created our cast button. Our cast button name, if we go back over here, under button text is report. Our first action is to do send email. Within our do send email, we've defined our template ID, which we built out in the add-in. We have our parameter number 1, which is email that we're passing in. We've defined that as my email. And then our parameter number 2, which is name, and it's a reference to the cell, which is Alex. So if I close that up, that has created our button. Expand the cell out, a little larger. Center that text. So it's a little bit bigger. And then we can upload our changes. We'll add our second report page, which will allow us to access this button, and we'll call this our report button. As you see, it's referencing sheet 2 as its source. You can click save and exit. And if we view this app online, we can come over here, and this is our report button page. As you see, we have our report button here. And let me just pull up my email on another browser, and I'll show you the email that gets sent out when I click this button. So we can click that button. We are done. And if I pull it up over here, give me 2 moments. Awesome. So we get a no reply email from Sheetcast. I'll just drag this over here. Can you guys let me know if you can see the email?
Not yet, Alex.
You will see the screen. I see. Awesome. So in this case, it has created me a default email. I have to share my other screen. It's not letting me drag that over. I apologize. Awesome. And so it creates an email that looks just like this. I want to share this browser here. So it comes from the no reply at sheetcast.com. It brought in our name, and in this case, it used my email thread, which was defined over here. I'll go back to my other screen. Right here, which was alexm@pleasantsolutions.com. So there's a couple different things you can do with that. We built out a couple applications in our case where you're able to, like I said, make table references that automatically carry those button down and automatically add those emails and be sending those pieces, which is really, really flexible and allows you to build out some of those custom actions. One of the other really cool functions that we have is called cast QR code. So this function here allows us to generate QR codes based off of information that are passed in. So similarly to our report button, you can put in a string of text. We'll call this our QR code. Our sizing, we can put in as, we'll call it 200 by 200. Actually, sizing is from our Sheetcast size. So we'll go custom, which is a value of 3, and then 200 by 200. Where I have put this text string, you're also able to embed links. So you can use another one of our cast functions called cast page link. And within this, you can generate a link, or you can also use things like hyperlink and to link this to a various website. But for this, we're just going to put in a string of text called code. Cool. Is there any questions about this function here or the parameters that we are using?
A question not about the parameters, but about the system. If I understand, once the Sheetcast is being downloaded and all the functionality is being deployed to the Excel, is the only way to publish the outcome is on your website, or can I publish it to my local machine on 127.0.0.1 or my domain?
Yeah, so you can, it does ultimately have to be uploaded to our servers. So you wouldn't be able to run it locally, but you are able to embed it in your own domain. So we support the ability to embed things. If I go to this page here, and I go into the share settings, there's page access, and within this, you're actually able to embed them. So if I make this public by clicking public access and click share page, excuse me, as you see down in the bottom here, and I'll put this in the chat so it's a little bit more obvious and bigger for you. Here is the link to the iframe of the page itself. And so that page is now publicly available. So actually, you could probably click on that link and it would all load for you. But that is the iframe code to embed it into your website directly.
So it's like redirecting without the user knowing that they are addressing the Sheetcast servers.
Correct, yeah. So you could basically build out this custom application using Sheetcast and then stick it on your website and have it executed from your website without. Yeah, so it definitely makes it really flexible. And then, well, for your guys' purpose, I'll do something for you here. We'll view the QR code and then we'll do the next thing. So as you see here, we've generated a QR code. And then when you scan it, it won't do a whole lot because it just directs to a text right now. But we'll link it up to another page here, and I'll make that page public so that you guys can kind of see that. So on this page here, we're going to create something called a form page. And I'm actually going to get you guys involved here. So we'll enter some values here. So we'll do name, we'll do favorite Excel function, and what's another good question that I can ask you? We'll do a date picker because I would like to show off some of the formatting. So the first thing we're going to do
is appreciated.
Yeah, it definitely is something I'm appreciative of. So we'll do that. We'll go favorite Excel function. I'm a big fan of XLOOKUP. I hate VLOOKUP. I shouldn't say I hate it. I strongly dislike it because if your data is not contiguous or in a certain way, let's say I have name on the left, and then to the right of it, I have a value that I'm trying to look up. So in this case, my name's here and I want to look up what their favorite Excel function. VLOOKUP is great, but if they were in the opposite order and I wanted my lookup value to be name, VLOOKUP doesn't look to the left. And so that's a little bit annoying. So in this case, we're going to add a date picker. So to do that with Sheetcast, it's very simple. All you have to do is format it as a date. So I put in the 5-digit date code. It's super off. It's not 1958, but yeah, so we'll leave it like that. And then the second thing I want to implement here, and we'll do is a dropdown. And I'll show you how they render on the web in a second. So to do this, we're going to insert a data validation list. So again, I'll go through those steps again. Data validation, click data validation. We're going to allow only a list. And for this, we're going to do a comma separated list. You can also do a range of cells. So if you have a huge drop down that you want to make dynamic or a table, you can use that reference here. But for this, we're just going to do yes and no. Nice and simple. As you see, we now have a drop down. So in this case, we're going to format this as a table. Format and table. We have headers. So we now have this. We're going to add a new page type called form. Form allows us to collect data from the web, and it works really, really nice. As you see here, we have a table as source, so we can do specific cells, entire sheets. But now that we've added a table to our workbook, we can choose table. Did someone have a question there? I just wanted to make sure I'm not interrupting. Good to go?
Yeah, just
Awesome.
responding to some questions in the chat, but
yeah, I'll go
you
through here.
you keep going, Alex. I've got a handle.
Awesome. So the first thing I want to do here is show off. Right now we have sheet 4 table 1. It is the question I have been asked before, is what if I rename the sheets? So we'll call this new sheet, and you can also go over here and call this our form table. Now that's that done, let's upload our changes, and we'll add that form page again. And as you see, it automatically picks it up, new sheet, form table. If I change these names or references after the fact, they will automatically update like you expect in Excel. So you don't have to worry about building everything out ahead of time. But now that we're done here, we've created our form page. And if I load it up on the web, we have created our form page. So we have fields, we have name and favorite Excel function. We left those as kind of blank text. But as you see, we formatted column C as a date, and it now shows up as a date picker. So someone can come in and put whatever date they want, and our dropdown automatically carried over. So our yes and no has been filled in. With this, we can go a step further with this. We can click our edit button and come over to this second page. The more settings I have not showed off yet. I'll let you guys kind of take a little bit of a peek at it, and I'll go through some of these things to explain what they do. Our template allows us to do some styling and show things. Our show page after insert allows us to do a redirect. So in this case, we will use that, but not right now. Our save button text, you can change this. So since it's a form I'm asking you guys to fill out, we're going to change it to submit. And we'll hide the page title. We all know it's a form page. So we can click save on those settings. Should be good to go. And if I navigate back over here, I can refresh it. As you see, that top form disappeared, and our save button is now submit. We're going to add one more thing in here, and we're going to create a template. So to do this, we click the None button. It opens up this prompt menu, and we're going to click the Create New button. And it's just going to ask us to create that. And in this case, this allows us to adjust the styling. So we're going to make these bigger so that people can access them easier. So make that text a little bit bigger, format it. And now that we're done that, awesome. So we now have a template form page layout. So if we view this online, as you see, it's a lot bigger. You can also add in spaces if we wanted between these values. And maybe we want to make name kind of separate from the rest of them. If we go back to our web form, refresh it, we have a nice big gap. So one of the questions that you guys asked was, how do I kind of share this out there? Someone was asking about the embedding. There's a function within our things called the share features. And this is where things get pretty cool. So within the share features, we can make pages public, we can make them require a password, or you can use a formula for authorization. I have put if statements, so if, I don't know, A2 equals false, then it redirects them to another page. I have a PDF or a PowerPoint that I can share out about authorization. I'm not going to cover it too much today because it is quite complex. But yeah, basically any Excel formulas that you could think of that would restrict the ability for someone to access the page can be put in there. You can share it with specific emails, or you can put expiry on it. So in this case, I want you guys to come test this out. So I'm going to make this page public. We're going to click share page. And as you see, everyone can access it now. And the second thing we need to do is we're going to add a report page onto our table so I can see your guys' responses. So we'll call this our table view. As you see, we're going to reference our same table. We can click save and exit. And now we are good to go. So I can view this online. And if I go to this form page here, I'm going to put this link in the web chat here. And if everyone wants, you guys can go fill this form out. So I'm going to check this application in. So if you guys click that link, it should take you to a form page. And if you start filling it in here.
Apps is currently checked out by another user. Opening is read-only mode.
Yeah. Give me 2 seconds here. I'm going to check it in for you.
Okay.
If you refresh it, it should be good to go now.
It's good to go.
Yeah, so if you fill that in, we can get some responses. I'll give it a little bit here. So yeah, throw your name in there, what your favorite function is, pick the date picker, whatever you would like. And yeah, I can share my screen here. And I'm going to choose this screen here. So as you see, here's our table view. So this is the report page that we added on that table. And Lyron, I hope I said your name right, said their favorite function was SumIf. And look at that. So we got a whole bunch of these coming in. So in this case, we've kind of started to build out a function that is kind of live, which is really, really cool. So yeah, we'll give it another second or two here to see if anyone wants to submit, just to see how it works before I open it back up to test it out. Awesome.
Quick question about pricing.
Yeah.
If one user is $12 per month, and there's a text here describing that it includes unlimited anonymous visitors. So could you elaborate on the price model?
Yeah, so the user model is based off of people that are accessing the add-in only. So in this case, where I've made a public page and all of you have accessed it, I am the only one that needs to pay the $12 a month. Any of your users that are interacting with it on the web that are not logged in, so public pages, do not have to pay a license.
So it's actually a developer license.
Exactly. Yeah, it does extend a little bit above and beyond. If you within your organization have people that are logging in to the Sheetcast website, where it's like hidden pages that are only accessed by your organization, the licenses do apply, the user licenses to there. If I share my screen again, I can give you a bit more insight on that. So right now, I'm a logged in user. If I were to sign out and then sign back in, basically anyone that is signed in is considered a user. And the reason being is they can come in, they can build their own apps and do things like that. And so for the purposes of the licensing, it's anyone that is logged in that has access to the builder side via the Excel add-in or the web. But when the pages are shared publicly that don't require logins, it is not a user. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, so it means that one developer can develop an app with a few forms, and the authenticated users that are allowed to work may just approach that over the internet, work, exchange some data in between, and that's it. One user, one developer.
Yes, correct.
I will elaborate on that if I understand you correctly, Alex. I will elaborate on Menash's question. If I understand you correctly, then one developer can develop 1,000 applications to 1,000 customers, each having like its own set of workbooks and portals over the web. There's some of which are attached to Excel worksheets, etc., over a single developer license, correct?
I'm muted.
Alex,
Sorry about
you're
that.
muted,
Yeah.
yes.
So yeah, I can you can build as many applications under a user license. We technically do have an abuse policy. If you're creating a script to create applications and you have millions, then not. But yes, effectively for all intents and purposes, you can create as many applications with one developer license with as many public users as you want. If this form page that I created went out to 250,000 people, for instance. Because it's a public page, it would only be the one license, and I can keep building as many different applications.
Or if you have 1,000 sheets, it means 1,000 public sheets, so anyone can access it.
Correct. Yeah, so as long as those sheets are public, you don't have to pay for additional user licenses. If you want them restricted, so the sharing to logged in accounts, each account has to have its own license.
Yeah, but can't you apply some logging or authentication process through the data embedded in the Excel sheets via forms?
Yeah, so
So
you don't
they're
even
still
necessarily
public.
need...
They're still public, but you have to have your own authentication code in order to access the service.
Could you repeat that question?
Yeah,
Maybe
I repeat that. Well, your presentation includes a workbook with sheets, the ability to build forms. I can create a table of designated users and their username and passwords. I can create a form. I can have that form being set up as a public form, but yet upon the entrance of that form, one would have to type in the access codes, which are available in order to make the comparison on one of the sheets. And once they are authenticated, they can approach the services on that workbook.
Yeah, so I can do that pretty much right now. I have a public page, but I can put a password on it. So I can save that now. And, excuse me, this page now, this form page, I'm logged in, so I won't see it, requires a password, which is demo 2024. Actually, I think I put it on the report page that was public.
I think he referenced a different scenario.
But yes, in your case, you could create Excel logic that has those different codes that requires them to enter them and basically match up to your Excel table and create effectively user authentication using Excel logic and not have to have an additional logged in user.
Yeah, that's my question. And obviously, upon your additional remark before, on a fair use basis.
Yeah, so I mean, like if I'll be straight up, we've developed applications for people that use kind of, we call it light login. So that's kind of using exactly what you described was Excel logic to restrict users. So it was a public page, but we had this authorized formula, and I can kind of build off of that here, and we'll build the scenario. If I create this table, we'll actually copy this table. Copy this data right here, and I create a new table. And this is our new table. We'll call this... no, we won't do that. We can add a new function in here, and we'll call this our key, right? One of our other functions is called cast param. And what cast parameter does is it allows us to store values within the browser parameters. So within all sort of links, you can kind of store hidden values and associate to them. In this case, we're using cookies. And you can kind of create a false login with that associated. And so in this case, we'll do cast param name, and we're going to call this our key, right? And our value is going to be this here. So in this case, we'll just create the one function. Oh, hello? Sorry, my Excel just crashed. I apologize. So we're going to use our cast param function. Can you still see my screen?
We can.
Yes.
Perfect. I'm just going to let Sheetcast
Is
restart
there a
again.
limit from Excel point of view, meaning only 365 or any version like 2019 it will work?
Our official support is back to Excel 2013. But for bests like interactivity and where we do a lot of our QA and testing is on Excel 365 and with our dynamic array functions. So I think it's 2021 and up allows us to have those dynamic array functions.
Yes, I think
and
there will
so
be a 2024 in a few months.
there you go. So yeah, the newest the better. Obviously, you'll have access to more functions, and that's where we do the bulk of our testing. So there we go. So I'm going to use our cast param key. Let me just share out the, I think I had the, awesome. And is there any questions about what we use for our name parameters?
If I understand you correctly, you are kind of sending query parameters as part of the URL?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So we are creating a value that gets stored within the web and as the URL, which is going to be our cast param. In this case, we're using our named function. So the other function that we can use, and I'm going to create a new workbook for this, and we're going to call this our param. And let me just refresh out of this, and I'll create a new workbook, and I'm going to do this for our parameters. So with the parameters, what it does is basically it appends it as a additional value. I can share my browser to explain this just a little bit better to you. Can you see the browser URL here? And if you want, you're having trouble seeing it, you can also take a peek at the URL that I put in the chat, and I'll kind of follow along. So the first piece is our app ID. That is this piece here. And the second piece is our page ID. But within this, we can also embed cookies that are associated to our website. And so this goes off kind of the developer. As you see here, we have all of these different parameters that automatically get associated. With these Excel functions that we're about to use, it allows us to embed and create those parameters as a Excel user without kind of knowing how to create those. And in the case of, I believe it was Manash, was that, I believe you were asking about the sharing, is you can define these parameters within your Excel workbook. So in this case, I'm going to have two different things. I'm going to have someone's name and their maybe email. And if that link is accessed where those parameters are stored, let me share my Excel again. Share screen. And there we go. Awesome. So this is where we're going to set this up. And just give me 2 moments here. I'm just going to access the, I'm going to pull the formula out from another workbook because it is quite long. I apologize. Give me 2 seconds here. Alrighty. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to put in some dummy values so we can upload this and upload our changes. Awesome. So we are going to create a equals cast page link. And as you see here, our cast page link generates a link that navigates the entire tab to a new root view. So in this case, with the parameters set, and this is how we're going to set a parameter. So our label is going to be button. So we just name it as a button. And we're going to need to grab one of our page IDs. So right now we don't have any. So let's add a report page that we want to store our parameters or access these parameters on. So we'll navigate it to page 1 for now. That's fine. We'll change that in a sec. This button right here allows us to copy our ID, get rid of our tilde, and we can stick our page ID in here. And as is a string, we want to put it in brackets. And then we have our parameters in here. So this is where we want to set up our cast param named. As you see here, we have this, and we're going to call this our key. And our value, in this case, I guess we can, we call this XYZ. So basically, this link is now going to generate a cast parameter that we've defined as XYZ. And we want to change that. So it's going to create a button that navigates to this page and return a cast param with the name of key. And the value that it should return is XYZ. To view this, we can go cast param. This is our next function. And as you see, our function helper here, it says returns the value of the parameter with the provided name or NA if it doesn't exist. And so we want to return the same one we just defined as key. Unfortunately, because we're accessing it from Excel, you can't store the parameter in Excel. But when I open this up, and give me 2 seconds, I'm going to view this app online. And I'm going to bring this over here. Can everyone see my screen good? Actually, I'm going to make this font a little bit bigger so that you guys can see it without any issues. Can you let me know if that's a bit better for you?
We can see it very good.
Very good?
Yeah.
Cool. So if I open this up on the website, right? We have the values that we just put in. So we have our name, our email. We have the button we created and the function. So on this page, when we first loaded it up, we don't have a parameter associated because we've defined this parameter within our link. When we click our link, as you see, the parameter that we defined is stored within here. And if I open my developer console, and not F11, F12, we should be able to find that parameter within here. Yeah, right here. So we have our parameters stored as a cookie. So with that, you can then go a step further and let's add a new page. And we'll call this our redirect test. And we can save this for now and save and exit. We can copy this page ID because we now want this button to link to that page, not our previous one. We stick that in there, upload our changes, and then let's go into the share settings for our redirect page. So as we were talking about before using Excel logic, let's make this public access and use a formula for authorization. And remember how we used our cast param function to return the key and when it displayed XYZ on the web? We want to make sure that they have the cast param key associated. So we'll go equals cast param key is equal to, and then I just want to make sure I defined it right, capital XYZ. X and then YZ. Cool. So this page should allow users to access if our cast param key is equal to XYZ. So there's some Excel logic or formula logic built in. Can upload those changes and our redirect page is done. So when we view this on the web, it says we do not have access to view this. The reason being is because we accessed it without the link. But if I go over here and I go to this page. Oh, let me just view this app online. And I'll bring this browser over here. We go to our param type app. Ooh, I want to view, one second, my redirect test online. I want to copy this page. Okay. This app. I want to view our report page. Okay, here we go. So this is the same report page that we had before. As you see, our parameters are turning NA because this is our first time visiting. We haven't stored it, but we have our button. And remember, our button is now facing at our redirect page. And our redirect page under the share access is saying only if their cast param key is equal to XYZ can they access. So if I go back to my report page and I click this, boom, we've hit our redirect test and we know we have stored that. So I can share this link with all of you guys right now. If I share this page link here with everyone, you should all get this error here.
Yeah, Alex, you have hard-coded the XYZ inside the cast param named function.
Yeah.
The use case here is if I can reference a form control to pick up a passcode or something that the user had typed in.
You can do that, yeah. So you can reference anything within your Excel workbook. So in this case, I did XYZ just as something that could be really easily referenced. But you can use any sort of cell references within a workbook. And so I have created email links that get sent out to users. And the parameter is stored within there. And so to that page, basically you say, oh, I want to add Bob, Tom, and Michael. You put their 3 emails in there. You create a send email button that stores the parameter to access that page. They then basically get a secure link to access that email. And in that reference, I was using table references. So dynamic table references based off of their emails. So in my... Go ahead.
So if I understand you correctly, if I link or if I associate a text box to a cell, then I can reference the cell that picks up whatever the user enters in the form control on the web page, and that's how I pick up what he entered online. Correct?
Yeah. So they would need to enter that value in ahead of time for it to get committed to the server. And then once that secret passcode is within it, you can then reference it to store it as a parameter.
And take a simple scenario like a username and password form. Okay, the user opens up the web page, which is linked to a worksheet. He enters the username and password. Now I need to pick up those credentials and I want to pass them over after validation to do the routing to another page, possibly passing the username over so I can do other stuff with it.
Yeah, so I actually built out something very, very similar to this. I have a PowerPoint PDF that I can share out with you after this session that basically what you just described to a T describes how to build that out. And I can share that with Israel, and either he can distribute it or I can distribute it with everyone here today, if that would be one.
I have a few other questions. I just want to allow you
let's go through
complete your presentation. I don't want to interrupt.
No, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Let's go through them.
Okay, so first question is that can you reference cells in worksheets that are not the online worksheet? So I can reference hidden cells that are in a worksheet that is not accessible, that is not published online, that I can still reference it in the formulas that are published online?
Yeah, the whole workbook gets uploaded to the server. And if you have a worksheet within that workbook that gets uploaded, and the key is it still needs to be within the same workbook. You can reference sheets that don't have a report page on them, for instance.
Okay, I have another question. However, you didn't demonstrate the API component or module that you have. I guess that I can use it to, for example, if I want to pick up a form values that the user had typed in, and I want to submit it to a REST API service that I have, a Node.js service to pick it up and store it in a database and a managed database over the cloud. I can use your API to do that directly without going through the workbook?
The answer is yes, but not necessarily. So with our API, we allow scripts that connect to external workbooks and services. But scripts require approval at this point. We're working on our documentation on our API to get users to be able to create and connect to those API endpoints themselves. But for those pieces, you would probably need to work with our team to get that fully set up, but it is something that we can do.
Okay, so it's not out of the box that I can send REST API request to any URL then?
Correct. It's in development right now to make it fully out of the box where the end user can access it, but it does exist, and it's something that we can assist you with if that's something that you want.
Okay. Do you have like real life mission critical business applications that are running with your solution?
Yeah. So we have I can't provide a ton of specifics. We have a bunch of small to medium businesses that use applications on a day-to-day basis. And then built off top of that, we recently have a fairly large gala that is here locally that is using us for their ticket issuing, for the drink tickets, for their silent auction, all of those different pieces together in one.
Okay. I can see how introducing another cloud service as a mission critical link in the chain can be a consideration in certain cases, I mean.
For sure. Yeah. And the API connections is something that we've dealt with fairly often. And like I said, we're working to deal with those things as soon as possible and make it so that the end user can easily access those. Within our site, we have integrations. The one integration that we're able to provide to the end user that they can set up themselves right now is Shopify. So connecting to a Shopify store to resell your applications if that's something that you wish to do, or have other sort of payment stuff integrated. But yeah, we're excited to connect to a ton of other APIs and stuff going forward.
Where are you storing your servers? What hosting service are you using?
Yeah, I believe we use IBM or Azure Web Service. I'm not entirely sure which one we use, but depending on your regionality, we have servers across the globe. And so I'm not sure where you're located out, but if it is from Israel, we do have servers based in your guys' region.
Okay. Now, how will this solution interplay with extensive VBA code that I have in the same workbook that kind of serves, back-end use cases, while at the same time some worksheets are published online, and also I guess that you've only translated worksheets to the front end, but not user forms, VBA user forms, correct?
Yes. So in this case, we currently, our official statement is that we do not support VBA within the workbooks. It can be run within the workbooks, but as soon as it uploads to the web, we can't guarantee the efficacy or that VBA will work. The idea with some of our custom functions and the workflows that we've created is to replace VBA and then build off of it using our workflows. And that goes above and beyond with our scripting functionality. So creating, VBA-like scripts within Sheetcast applications. But yeah, at this time, we do not officially support VBA.
Yeah, but there's no limitation for me to use those. It's just that they're not published. So I can use a user form and if it updates worksheet cells that are in a published worksheet, then they're visible online.
It may or may not work. I can't answer to that specific point. Yeah, it's in that case, I would recommend using one of our form pages. I have to take a 5-minute break here, and Brett's going to take over to answer some questions.
I can answer following questions. Alex just has a bit of a mission critical thing happening right now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Another question in continue to last Moore's question. Your website just says that VBA is not supported, but on the other hand, can use the cast do or do cast. Sorry, the cast do functions. But on your website, there is no documentation describing the abilities and options of the cast do functions. So how can we?
So the cast functions, as they're built into right into the actual add-in. So when you actually type in the cast function, you'll see the different option of the different cast functions, and each one of them will have a different little description of what they're able to do, and kind of the steps and requirements to actually fulfill that application. We are still working on the more fulfilled documentation for all these cast functions, so that it will be a little more easily accessible to everyone to be able to determine what functionality they need to use.
Okay, and Alex mentioned a scripting functionality, which is like VBA, but is it like more like VBA or VBScript or JavaScript?
Very similar to VBA. We create these what we call scripts, essentially just our own form of VBA. Essentially, the reasoning behind it is that when you're utilizing something like VBA, there's nothing preventing you from passing in malicious code into our servers. So we have it so that the VBAs are no longer don't work within the Sheetcast application, that we need to use something called scripts, because that's something that we can predetermine, make sure that those are safe for our servers.
And are they kept within the workbook or on your servers as an additional object to a workbook?
So everything that's on the workbook that's stored within Sheetcast will be actually held within our servers as well, but you'll have that it'll be yours, it just hosted on our servers.
And those scripts are in runtime. Are they run on the client side, in the browser, or is it like scripts that are sent back to the backend Excel to run there?
So the scripts are run on the actual through the server itself, and it impacts the Excel workbook. Yes.
Okay, it's like a server rendering that's pushing to the client.
Yes.
I do wanna go back to I'm trying to understand if this can be combined with a whole application that is built with Excel VBA that has a remote MySQL database, and for the purpose of allowing certain users accessing certain aspects of the application online, I can combine maybe the Sheetcast to open up maybe 3 worksheets that are online that present data and collect data that I can use. So I'm kind of not quite settled with the Alex's answer as to that it's not supported and it may work and may not work. So how can I know if I can strategically approach this wider view of applications, counting on Sheetcast to just add on the online functionality to a whole VBA application?
Well, that's why POC is about.
What?
That's why you need the POC to check. I think you need to understand more thoroughly.
Okay, but before the POC, I can ask some questions.
Yes, that's definitely, but I think it goes too deep.
So my level of expertise isn't as much as Alex. I will just put that forward. He knows a lot more about all the product specifications than I do. But essentially, the restriction of VBA is that you can upload an ExcelX document. You can utilize an ExcelX document, but the VBA code that you're utilizing in it won't actually translate into anything functional within the Sheetcast application.
And I don't need that to do. And I don't need it. I only need it to be fully functional when it's opened in the backend within Excel by certain users.
So from my understanding is that, yes, if you have it open in the back end, you're actually utilizing the Excel aspect, that's still fine. The VBA will be fine in that capacity. It just won't do anything when it comes to Sheetcast.
Yeah. So it's my responsibility that those worksheets that I outpost with Sheetcast, they are not dependent on any VBA code. Correct.
Yeah. So essentially, think of it this way: that if you have anything that's dependent on VBA going into Sheetcast, that will not function. That you need to replicate with our custom functionality or through our scripting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If it's something that is in the back end of things, that can still function perfectly fine. It just doesn't interact at all with Sheetcast. Yeah, it's essentially Sheetcast will recognize that, hey, a VBA code is happening. I'm just locking that out.
Yeah, I totally understand. I understand it's a whole different ball game. I mean, I understand what you did by translating the worksheet elements into HTML, CSS, JavaScript. That's one discussion. To deal with VBA, that's a total different ball game. It
was a few more than one discussion, but yes. It's when it comes to VBA, it's unfortunately that it's just too easy to pass forward something that's malicious, and we need to make sure that we prevent that from occurring. So
now I noticed you had a CSS tab also. Does that mean that I can apply custom CSS that
you absolutely can? Yep, you absolutely can. So we do a lot of that in-house as well. So we have a couple guys that are kind of our designated designers. So Alex and myself will build a lot of the applications. And typically speaking, they're fairly ugly to start. They don't look the prettiest. And then we pass it forward to one of our design team members, and they'll input the CSS that's necessary right in the application. You can right away, you'll have that functionality.
And how do I assign the class names and IDs to the worksheet elements?
That I'm not sure.
Okay. Sorry. Can I also attach JavaScript that will be pushed to the client?
I believe so. I believe that it does support JavaScript as well. But I think that's I'm not sure if it's actually something that we have public functionality of yet, or if that's just something that we do internally yet so far.
And do you have future plans to integrate with TypeScript?
We have lots of plans to do different integrations. Obviously, all these different integrations will come with time, and some of them will be a case-by-case basis, so that as integrations are needed, depends on the integration exactly that is required. It might be something that we have kind of already automated in the future, or it might be something that still requires our team to kind of get involved with based on the integration.
Do you have an arrangement for trying out the Sheetcast? Like if I want to run some internal tests to see capabilities, limitations, trial version or something like that?
I'm not sure if we're offering a trial version right now, but I can certainly ask our sales VP sales if he wants to offer this Excel group a trial version, and if so, I can send the link to Israel.
Or I'll pass you the email, and you'll take it from there.
Thank you.
Yeah, perfect.
One more question.
Yep.
Regarding to computing capacities, we've been solving some slow pace calculating sheets in recent years via the VBA, and once we have to work through the workflows or other functions embedded with the Sheetcast, and we know that the Excel workbook has to recalculate the whole workbook with how many formulas there are there. sometimes a million formulas. What implication does it have on the pace of refresh?
So of course, the more things that you have impacting the page itself, that you're utilizing, so the more like, let's say you're filling out a form that's 100 questions long. Of course, that submission is going to take a little longer than a form that is one submission long. The same it'll of course. Now, with something that's only 100, it's going to be fairly minimal how much you'll notice. But if you're talking all of a sudden 100,000 input forms, when you submit that, it's going to take a moment to actually take all that data in. Yes, of course.
Okay, thanks.
I believe that I want to say that we've seen up to 30,000 that lines run that are almost instantaneous, though.
Great.
So, you typically won't notice much performance issues on most use cases. Yeah, very rarely that I've ever seen any sort of applications that we're building that are for most organizations or most people's needs that require more of an input than is going to be handled logically and pretty quickly.
Okay, thanks very much. I'll be happy, of course, if there's an arrangement for some kind of test. I'll be happy if you could check that with your VP, as stated before, and
of
pass
course.
that to Israel, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
Me too.
Yep, of course.
Overall, Brett, I think it's a great idea. Yep. behind the Sheetcast to allow web functionalities to interact with the workbook. That's a great idea.
Yeah, a big part of the push, at least one of the things that I really like about it, is that a lot of people will build out their Excel workbooks and they have all that intellectual property there, and they want to sell it, right? They want to monetize that Excel workbook somehow, and so they want to share it with them, but they don't want to share all of the data that's associated with the workbook. You only want to showcase certain pages that are associated with that workbook. And yes, of course, you can do some layer of password protection on Excel itself, but it's pretty minimal at best, and isn't exactly what most would consider overly safe. So this actually allows you to prevent them from seeing anything that you don't want them to see, prevent them from interacting with anything you don't want them to interact with. And it's certainly a little bit more robust in that capacity. One use case that we had recently was they wanted to create a quoting calculator for their employees, and they wanted their employees to be able to input the different values, but they've had issues in the past where their employees would go into their Excel workbook, input the values, but manipulate cells that they weren't supposed to manipulate. And yes, they could have prevented that with restricted cell access, but that wasn't something that they had done. But you can see how that problem can even just expand even further, right? So they wanted to ensure that those people were only filling out the layers that they were supposed to fill out. We were able to create an application for them that allowed it to happen. Another use case was that we actually dealt with a financial advisor recently, who he had an Excel workbook that he was utilizing, and every time he would do something for a client, he would utilize this Excel workbook, and he would make his report in Excel. He would input all the data in, and it would take him about a half an hour to every time that he had a client that he was creating a report for. It would take him about a half hour to properly format the Excel workbook according to that client's needs. Based on what we were able to do for him, we took that half hour and we were able to turn it into about a 2-minute process for him. So all of a sudden that he's saving himself 28 minutes per client. And when he's dealing with thousands upon thousands of clients a year, you can imagine that saves you a lot of time and a lot of money.
Yeah, in my mind, the major benefit is to break the barriers of the thick clients that is serving only me and maybe a couple of colleagues.
Yep.
So I have it all the time with projects where I need a portal for maybe vendors or customers to take part, to participate in the application.
Yep.
And right now I have a project that I'm contemplating whether to develop it in Excel and just have a small website, or develop the whole application with Angular and not do anything with Excel, with which I'm very proficient, and I can invest a lot less effort to come up with the whole application. So if I will confirm that Sheetcast could be a robust solution that allows me to keep the application developed with Excel VBA end to end, however, allowing those portal users or web users to participate, then this could be a third option that was not on the table until today.
Yeah, so this is it's a new piece of tech that our option that we're showcasing to a lot of people, and they're realizing pretty quickly how great it'll be for an option for them to utilize their Excel knowledge that they already have and that they're very proficient in order to create something that they can then share, right? In a more robust functionality and a more secure functionality as well.
Yeah, but I'm putting an emphasis on VBA because I'm heavily reliant on VBA for developing business applications. So
so I can kind of comment on that. The goal eventually is to support some level of VBA, I believe. But the ultimate, I guess, best way for that kind of stuff to function is to use our scripting service and the functions that we have that replace a lot of VBA. I have probably gone over about 50 different client needs over the last year that have implemented VBA. And all but one of them, we were able to replace the VBA within their workbooks for business solutions using our custom functions. And in the cases where we're not, such as external connections, things like that, where you're using VBA for those purposes, we have our scripting. But ultimately, because the workbooks are being uploaded to our server, we cannot guarantee the efficacy or functionality of VBA.
Now, Alex, allow me to, you weren't here, we already had this discussion. Sure. I'm not expecting the VBA to be carried over to your service. I totally understand that. I told him it's one story to translate a worksheet with all of its elements to HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. It's a totally different story to handle the VBA. I'm not going there. I don't think that's a valid use case. I meant that the business application that is its foundation is Excel VBA. And it's serving the backend users only. It's running only on the PCs and laptops of the users. However, 3 worksheets of that workbook, which has millions lines of code, VBA code serving the backend services, databases, user forms, whatever, REST API, whatever. 3 worksheets are out there on the front end with maybe forms, with maybe reports for those portal users who needs to participate in the process. And that's it. That's it. That's the use case. And if I will confirm that this use case is robust, it will be another option for me for architecturing my solutions for customers.
For sure. Yeah, that might actually work. I know recently we started the ability to support XLSM files. And I've seen VBA working on some of them. And so if that's a case where you're running kind of that stuff on your back end and periodically updating your server and uploading the new data to your server, it may work. I can't guarantee it, but yeah, that may work.
Yeah, for that, as we discussed with Brett, maybe I will invest in running some tests with Sheetcast to see what it can do, what it can't do.
For sure. And I'll share my email with you because I'm actually quite interested to see what does and doesn't work and kind of make the solution better for our end users. So I'd love to know kind of how your tests go and your feedback on
Well, I'm going to schedule a webinar with you after the implementation. Tell us what are the results.
You've gone so far, Israel. So far.
You have to go far.
I'm always going far. I will reach the end point one way or another with an Angular, with the Excel VBA, with a combination. I will do that.
What about Python?
I stopped using Python for customers' projects, actually.
But the next version of Excel will have Python built in.
But you know, for web applications, I find that using Angular with some front end, frameworks hosted on cloud service providers, it's probably the best. But since I do have such an enormous advantage with VBA, Excel VBA based applications, given also the hundreds of functions, libraries that I've developed over the years to facilitate those business applications, and I'm still tempted to use that for many use cases where the web is not that significant or a major part of the project. Now here is a possible opportunity for me to find a third option that was not on the table for me, and I will look into it if technically, and I can count on such solutions.
So as I said, I'm going to follow up.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome. Wonderful. Is there any other questions that anyone else has? I apologize, I had to step away for a moment there, but I really appreciate everyone having Israel, having us here, and yeah, it was awesome.
I think we all got the idea, and of course that it has to take time to really understand your solution, how to integrate it, and what is your advantages and your strong points, and how to integrate it with our Excel.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brett has put my email within the chat.
Yes.
If there's any questions that you guys have at all, I know what I went over was a bit, and sometimes, as you said, Israel, you have to kind of digest it and kind of go back and think about it. If there's any questions that you have about implementation, what I've shown, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll definitely respond to you. I'm also, I have LinkedIn as well, if that's a preferred method of communication. But I'm more than happy to answer any sort of your questions or help you guys in any ways.
You should have an Excel LinkedIn page embedded in your solution, and there you have to make all your connections, communication with the others.
For sure. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Wonderful.
So on behalf of all of us, I want to thank you, Brett and Alex. It was really interesting. I think still the idea of connecting the web and Excel has a huge potential.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Great idea.
Thank you, guys.
Well done.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Well done. It was very interesting. Thank you.
Bye bye,
everyone.
Have a wonderful evening, and hope to be in contact with many of you guys soon.
Thank you.
Ta-ra.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.